Kia ora and welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod once again. After an amazing weekend of the Rugby Championship, two absolutely enthralling games that went right down to the wire. Of course, the All Blacks, the mystery of the last 20 minutes and what's happening there is something that we need to get into tonight to try to solve. The Box couldn't come back again, this time just short poor old Mani Labok. Jeez, it's been a tough year for him at the end of games, trying to get those kicks over. We've also got a special treat for you tonight. Aaron Cruden mic'd up, playing for Waikato in their loss against Tasman. We'll see what it's like to have a veteran, a person who's been there, done that at Test football.
Great day, brother.
Being within an NPC team and providing feedback and really helping those around him. It's a really interesting look into Aaron Cruden and into, I suppose, what players say on the field as a whole. So we'll show that to you as well. And of course, we'll have your questions from Aotearoa Rugby Pod at sky.co.nz email and out of the comments section. And one of those questions will lead to somebody winning a Players Sports ball. We've also got another offer from Players Sports for you, a bit of a discount for all the New Zealand viewers. So stay around for that code and that chance to get a little bit of money off All Black supporters gear and also balls and boots. So before we carry on, next to me, James Parsons. Chipper, geez, it was an interesting weekend of football.
Oh, it was a great weekend, wasn't it? Definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat. And I mean, from a positive aspect, how good was it to see 68,000 turn up to the Bledisloe? You know, there was a lot of chat that, you know, it'd be pretty empty. So from a positive note, and the game delivered. And obviously Wellington sold out pretty quick, so it sets it up really nicely for this week.
Love a swing around about game. You know, absolutely love it. Bryn Hall, obviously over in the Birkenhead studio. Brynna, can you tell us a little bit about what you felt about the All Blacks going into that last 20 minutes, mate, and what you thought might happen and whether that kind of played out?
Well, I probably wasn't thinking that they were going to give away 2 yellow cards. I think not only us in studio, but I think in New Zealand, and I think the coaching group and probably everybody that's involved weren't thinking around yellow cards, because knowing Razor and that group, they would have touched on so much in terms of like what's required and being able to be really smart in terms of like being squeaky clean. And unfortunately, that'll probably be the most frustrating thing, I think, for that group, knowing that they are probably having those talks in behind closed doors. We're just not getting a reaction from that. And unfortunately, it's just individuals making errors at certain times. And that's not just with the yellow cards. I think that falls into, while we haven't scored any points in the last 20 minutes, it's because what's required in certain situations, we're not getting it right. Like if we look at that last 20 minutes, for example, when South Africa were hot on attack, you know, there was 3 times when we had the ball on attack, we were making multiple phases within our attack shape. We missed a couple of cleans to not be able to hold on to the ball. Sam Derry gives a bit of a forward pass and then gets to be able to have a turnover. And then, you know, that's not even discipline issues. That's not even the yellow cards. That's just requiring you need to get done with what's required, and that was the attacking phase play shape. So yeah, I think it'd be very frustrating, I think, for that coaching group and the players, knowing that they've probably talked about it at length. They're just not getting a reaction in that last 20 minutes, which you've seen with the results, not scoring any points in the last 4 or 5 test matches in that period of time. Yeah,
there was a really interesting stat. You know, we're first in the Rugby Championship for scoring points in every quarter, except for the last, where we've scored 0 and obviously 4th. So I think it's a little bit too easy just to put it on the bench. You know, like, we are a team that throws everything, well, the kitchen sink when it comes to attack, and there's a lot of moving parts, and potentially just stripping that back and slowing that down in the last 20, Bryn, I was thinking, you know, sometimes when you have a couple of errors, you know, you get in a huddle when you say, all right, there's no tips. There's, you know, if there's a glaring option out the back, you'll do that. But it's just that carry clean, simple mindset of getting that gain line ball, fast ball, and sort of manipulating the defence until there's an idea of just hands or something that doesn't require a lot of creativity or, you know, different lines and bodies crossing over, like just keeping it really basic. And, you know, I think if they can maybe switch into that mindset in the last 20, I think the mojo or the connection with players coming on and obviously players leaving may make it a little bit easier in terms of the way they communicate and the speed and the expectation of the game. But I still agree, you know, we created a lot of opportunities well before the last 20 minutes. You know, we didn't actually have that many entries in our 22 in that last 20 minutes. But if you look at it, for the first 60, we had, you know, 14 entries, you know, for 4 tries. for the All Blacks and what they expect. Yes, that has, I suppose, been a trend even in South Africa. Maybe not as many entries, but not always finishing those opportunities off. And that's what I mean. Like, do we just try and simplify it, because you eventually wear the defence down. Although the Springboks had an off weekend, they're quite good at just wearing the defence down in the sense of a strong carry, clean, pick and go, all those sorts of options, rather than, I suppose, rushing to that edge and forcing that error.
What about if they actually converted those opportunities and they were going into the last 20 with a bigger lead and more pressure on the opposition, and therefore the whole dynamic changes, Bryn? It's like, well, actually they've got to score 25 points now, and that's not going to happen. And then the All Blacks might score another 10.
I completely agree. Like, I think if you look at all and up what I've got on my notes here, we had 2 in the first half. We had Damo's line break, which he had the inside to Sevu, and then Cortez was the inside. We just don't get that pass. And then Sevu Reese's little knock on just before half time. You're looking at kind of 35-12 to 42-12. And then I think that the game is much more different. And I guess the belief from the Australians probably isn't to the extent where it was on the weekend. And then if you're looking just after half time, same again. If Damo had his time again, he's probably just passing that in the inside to Big Tams, and then again we're able to then accumulate points with the dominance that we did have. And then Artie was held up in the 57th minute, and then the turnover click play, which would have been a great try, probably world try of the year with Cortez and Aotearoa, but that's 4 or 5 opportunities where we just weren't able to score the points. So Ross, I think if it was done a little bit differently and we did score points around that, scoreboard pressure, it's completely different in the mindset of the Australians, that they don't feel like that they're in the game. So I know it's not great that we weren't able to execute, but the great thing that I love seeing is that we are having multiple opportunities to win games, where I think probably 12 months ago we weren't having a lot of opportunities and we were frustrated in our attack. But if you look at it on the weekend, we can attack. There's no doubt about it. It's just being able to, I guess, finish those last passes or get the job done with whatever that looks like.
I think that's a good point, Bryn, because you'd actually rather be in this position, that your attack structures are creating opportunities, but it's the final sort of pass or execution of it. And it was the third quarter that was where we missed out on points the most. Australia gave away 6 penalties. We gave away 5 in the last quarter, so that gave the Aussies that opportunity to attack, as we saw, and edge that sort of comeback. If we could have taken or made the most of, I suppose, the ill discipline of the Wallabies in that sort of 40 to 60, we probably wouldn't have needed to be fixated as much, and or made subs a lot earlier. Because when you get the score a little bit further out, it gives you the confidence to maybe remove a Lomax earlier and remove a Cody Taylor earlier, and potentially even put Harry Plumber on a little bit earlier, whatever it may be. But because we missed out on those opportunities, almost you could feel the tension building. Where I was watching it, you could feel the tension building. But I know we're focusing a hell of a lot on attack, but I actually am impressed by the attack and what it's creating. Where I think they'll focus the most this week is defensively, and how they were broken a lot on the inside. So if we use McWright's try first and foremost, I think that's just a system thing. I don't think that's that big a deal. I don't think we have been broken set piece wise. We've been pretty solid defensively from set piece, but from a technical point of view, obviously because it was an overthrow, Cody Taylor comes and backs lifts, so he's not that connecting defender to the first defender that's out in the back line. And normally what you do, if the hooker comes in, normally someone from the front of the lineup that isn't being used, which I think it might have been Ethan de Groot in this situation, will leave early, because if one comes in, one's got to go out. We'll leave early and then fill that gap. But the beauty of it is the throw was flat. They lifted, so it genuinely looked like, that's what it was designed to do. And Joe Schmidt's the best at this. He clearly would have seen that they were slow to fill that gap, and that's what they would have created it from. And then it was just too late, because everyone was expecting someone to fill the gap, so they didn't react to Cody, because some systems are that person will stay there, and then if Cody goes in, then these guys will just tighten and jam, and then potentially the space is out wide. So whatever their system is, that's a missing pass. But I don't think that's that big. They'll clear that up. But in phase play, in and around the ruck, and they came back in, or they scooped and pick and went through there, I think there'll be a big focus on making sure that those bodies that are, I suppose, the first 4 bodies that are in and around that ruck are coming up square, and then they're doing their second job. Because sometimes with forwards, and I was guilty of it a lot when I played, is you'll see the pass go across there, and you just assume sometimes that, okay, they're going to hit that pod there. And your body goes like that, see how my hips start going that way, and then it's like, oh, and then you've got that weak shoulder. And Wallabies clearly saw that's what a lot of the habits were, and they made the most of it. So I'd say that's probably the big fix-up they're looking to do, because the fact that Australia had 63% gain line, a lot of it was from in and around the breakdown, not really being broken out wide.
New Zealand had 53% gain line. That's a very high gain line percentage for football.
But I think that's what was our attack was just that final skill execution. Like our attack's in good shape.
Joe Schmidt has seen a trend in terms of what he saw in and around the transition area of that particular type of line, knowing that Cody was going to lift. And so, it's great now in terms of like what Joe Schmidt is thinking. But I think for us, our click attack has been really, really good in our counter attack, and I think just our general face play shape has been really, really good. Like, I guess it would be great to be able to score more of a set piece, and I think we have seen a little bit in the first part of there where we have been able to, I guess, get through our strike attack. But I guess it is an area of concern, I think, more so on the defensive side, that teams are seeing trends, and I guess we'll not be able to adapt and see those pitches on the run.
And if you look at the New Zealand strike attack, I'm struggling to remember a lot of strike attack where New Zealand's really made something happen from the first 3 or 4 phases, outside of things that have happened from a turnover.
But I think you've got to be fair that not many teams do score off phase 1, and if you look at it, for the most part, the strike has manipulated the defence in a way that they have bent the defence. It's not necessarily always ended in a line break, but it's put them in a position where they eventually get to a metre, and then that's when the error happens. So, or they've got no one in front of them, and it's that pass when someone tries to shut down their time and space. It's that pass that ends up going forward.
So if the solution to not losing in the final 20 is to get yourself in a position where it doesn't matter what happens in the final 20, how do the All Blacks go about cleaning up a foot and touch, a little knock on, a forward pass? Like, it seems to be a variety of things there.
That's what I was trying to say, is like maybe we look at the last 20 as sometimes teams look at the first 20 and just keep it simple. So when changes are coming on, it's like, okay, we're not tipping, we're not carry cleaning, Darry's just going to catch it and hit, and he's going to get clean through that, and then we're quick ball. I just think that may give them their confidence back.
And in the first 50 minutes when they're making them but not finishing them?
Yeah, there's only one, I suppose, solution to that is be patient and take one more ruck maybe. Rather than trying to score in the first or second phase, it's, if that pressure's coming on and you think your skill set can't get there, then take the hit, fight, and then reset and trust that you're going to manipulate the D eventually. That's the only other option, is not to throw the pass or not to get to the edge and run out, or all those little things. Step back in when you're near the sideline.
And then sometimes that makes you feel a little bit tight. No different when you've got a bit of pressure on you feel a little bit tight, but you've got to get through that to be able to try and find a way to get that job. Because look, if we look at some of those examples, like just balls on the inside, when would we say Damien McKenzie really wouldn't put those passes inside to that person? In rugby, at Mitre 10 Cup, for the Chiefs, you just don't see it. Do you know what I mean? So like it's just an individual thing to be able to get that right, and understanding you've got to be able to do it under high stress pressure. Ironically,
Sometimes the turnovers that are caused and that loose ball is what's putting the defence under pressure, which leads to Caleb Clark feeling desperate, and that's where the ill discipline comes from. So, I mean, that ball security and sort of just keeping things simple may or may not work. I don't know. It's just, I've just been trying to think what's something that can get their mojo back, and I just think stripping things back, and if in doubt, tuck, set one more ruck. But I know those coaches, and Bryn will know better than me, they want you to pull trigger.
Yeah.
They will want you to pass that pass. You've got to have the skill set. They've got an All Black standard expectation, and they drove it, at the Crusaders. They're now driving it then. So for a player, they are expected to execute that, But what I'm saying is, I don't want to put the shackles on people, but maybe within their system, is there a way of just simplifying what is run so that you can be a little bit more accurate?
That's the hard part, isn't it? Understanding what the system actually is to break this all down.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had to watch it, 2 or 3 times to try and see where it, and again, what I saw, especially in the last 20, is the errors actually led to the defensive struggles, which led to the penalties. So it was actually the attack that put the defence under pressure. Because initially after the first time watching, I was thinking, man, the defence has not gone great today, and then the stats sort of show it, but it's actually from the turnovers and that broken defensive line is where the pressure came from.
So it's that hustle. You don't see that coming. You got to hustle back into a spot, and if you're not there quickly,
yeah. Well, but normally, because it's not a new thing, it happened against South Africa, and we defended it really well and reacted well. I think Australia did extremely well, and they came with a plan. They looked like they knew that they just wanted to attack in and around the ruck. They wanted to keep coming back inside, and that's where they got their gains. Nines running and so forth. So they came with a clear plan, and Joe Schmidt's done it before to the All Blacks. You remember the scrum, I think it was in Dublin. Who was that winger? I can't remember his name, but they went that way, and then they cut back down, and he chipped and chased and scored when we lost there. And I suppose that it is his MO against New Zealand for some reason. He has really clear ideas around how to break down defences.
And he's been inside the team, so he's got an even better idea. Brent, are you seeing that from the All Blacks coaches, though? Are you seeing an identification of a weakness in the opposition and a relentless focus on attacking it? Or are we just seeing the All Blacks focus on their own approach, which is, whatever the structure might be?
I think they'll be focusing on, obviously, a core skill in the execution within their phase play shape, right? Being able to hone in on that and being able to get that right every single day with the micro skills that are involved in and around that. But I think our attack's actually pretty good, man. Like, we talked around a lot playing South Africa and the line speed pressure, and even the England series. We talked around not being able to get past it. We've massively evolved around that, and we are scoring points and having multiple opportunities. Look at the game on the weekend, look at the 2 test matches against South Africa, and the execution thing is probably the only thing that's letting us down. And I can live with that, because the execution of it is like, the individuals, you've got to be able to nail that and own that. But if we weren't having opportunities and we weren't having that attacking ability and being able to, I guess, put teams under pressure, then I'd be asking different questions.
Which I think was Australia, don't you think, Bryn? Like when we were talking about Australia last week, they didn't turn much ball over, but they weren't breaking down defences. They definitely had a change in their attacking structure. And I suppose that, to give you an idea of what the other option is, no, you don't have errors, but you actually don't move anyone. So then you just basically have to kick it back and hope for a skill set error through a kick chase or something like that.
You don't want to be running at brick walls all night.
I honestly, breaking down defences the way we are at the moment, I'd much rather that issue to fix the final pass than having to say, okay, our attack structures just are not manipulating defence.
Our emails have been coming in, lots and lots and lots of them, pretty much all of them about the last 20 minutes, whether it be about the bench or is there a disconnect between the coaches and the players and all of these kind of things. One that I found really interesting, and you touched on it earlier, Brenner, about when Harry Plumber came on. Look, he came on with 5 minutes to go. I just wonder, we look at this question here from Richard McTague, and Richard, you can have the Players Sports Ball for this question. It says, obviously, Plumber was only considered injury cover, but 5 minutes? What confidence does that give the player that they belong? Let's face it, the starters weren't making an impact. Any impact player, which is Razor's term for the bench, should have a minimum of 15 minutes to make an impact. This is why the bomb squad works so well. Surely Razor should be building confidence in the 23, not just the starters.
Yeah, I can get the emphasis on the 23 and coming on earlier. We've spoken at length around this and, what used to be a massive strength of ours. If you look at it on the flip side, the game was in the balance with 5 minutes to go and he was put on. To me, that's massive trust. That's as big as it gets. Like, he came on, they were about 30 out and they score and they win. So I saw it as a massive amount of trust in what he's shown during the week to be put on at that time.
Yeah.
Like, that was the
Especially
most pressure
the
throughout that whole 80 minutes. Seriously, like, debut, go out there. Bledisloe on the line, you're out there, you potentially, could be the person that makes the mistake that lets them have one hand on the Bledisloe, but he didn't, and he put him out there and he trusts them.
Yeah, and I just want to say this, we've got to also understand with the substitute is that we had 2 guys that were in the bin. Do you know what I mean? So like 2 backs that were in the bin at the same time, so multiple times. So like it's tough to be able to bring someone on in that kind of passage of play as well. So like, and I think if you ask Harry, I'd tell you what, he doesn't care how many minutes he got. The fact that he was able to get 5 minutes and being able to, say that he's an All Black, it's obviously hopefully with the notion now that he can be able to back up and get some more tests in the future. But I agree with Jip. Like, I thought to myself, I was like, man, are they going to put him on? And in that situation where the game was in the balance, even though he didn't touch the ball, but obviously made a defensive tackle, they felt enough confidence to be able to at least put him on to get his debut. So, and it's situational. You got to set him up to be able to put him on the right scenario. Now, look, if we got our stuff together and we're able to put points together, then I think Harry Plumber comes on. But I think with how the game was going, we weren't scoring points in that third quarter that Jip alluded to. Then we went to 2 yellow cards, and then it was getting really tight, and then we were obviously in a really difficult situation. So, yeah, I can see where the question's coming from, but, I can understand why he was put on so late. Just one person that I did want to highlight was TJ Perenata's influence in that kind of last 15, 20 minutes in terms of his defensive efforts, being able to get back, especially with Tate McDermott. He did a massive tackle in terms of coming out of the line for Jacobson's steal. He was able to obviously come out of the line and made a big defensive effort there. And then the last play was the stacking the ball with Artie at the end to be able to win the game as well. So, look, I think we have talked around our bench coming on, and obviously we haven't put on points for a long period of time. But look, I thought his involvement along with Cortez Ratima, who started very, very well in that test match in the 55 minutes he got, but what TJ was able to bring on defensively and the effort areas was massive, I guess, in getting that result as well.
You have to think, although we'd love to see him back at Harbour, Wallace Atiti's nailed down that 6 jersey.
Yeah.
He looks right at home. I don't know how it works with Blackadder coming back, but I just don't see now with the balance and what he's produced how you could remove him. And defensive line-out work, he was up in the air a lot. In terms of our line-outs, he was up in the air. So he's made a real improvement in that set-piece work. Even his improvement from the second test where he got beaten down the blind side, he was much better in terms of being engaged on the scrum and then getting off in time to protect that blind side. So, man, he's been a hell of a find.
He's a revelation.
Yeah.
He's a revelation.
And you just think about the, I suppose, the scrutiny around that selection when he was initially put in the squad. Everyone saw it as a Hoskins versus Wallace. But I think they always saw him as a 6 rather than an 8. And I know he played 8 a lot for the Chiefs, but some of his carries, and his tough carries, his ability to hold his feet and just get through that contact and provide fast balls, it's just as effective as Artie.
Yeah, and with him making more gain line, Brynner, you kind of feel like Artie's been freed up now where he can do his thing as well. Artie's making lots of gain line, but it's not all on him. Sam Cane can clean 25 rucks. Wallace Atiti can get over the gain line, and Artie Savia can be Artie Savia.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's the balance. Like Jip's talked about it a lot in terms of the nucleus of that loose forward trio and being able to get to their strengths. Like Sam Cane, all the things that you touched on there, all the dirty stuff, we're able to clean the rucks to be able to get that right. He's really good in that space, and Artie does what Artie does. But what Wallace has done, he has opened up that physical side of him. Man, the amount of times that he's able to not get stopped over the advantage, he gets that first double shoulder and a chop, but he's able to get through that, being able to do a replay ball, be able to just get that extra fight to get that ball back. And his work rate off the ball as well in terms of defensively. He's massive, so he's got a big engine. You can probably see that's the reason why Razor has selected him. He's talked around efforts, both on and off the ball, on both sides of the ball. And that's what Wallace does really, really well. So look, for a guy that's very, very young, geez, I've only spent a little bit of time with him, but I'm not surprised seeing the results that he's playing because he's very mature, very understanding, has great leadership qualities not only within himself, but the teammates around him, and his ability to learn. The kid just wants to learn. He's always in his book and wants to be able to make every post a winner.
When he came on the show, I was so impressed. The 15 minutes we spent with him, just level-headed.
And I think Artie nailed it. Like I couldn't probably articulate it from my experiences with him, but he does have wisdom. He's like an old soul, like he does. It's just the way his soft nature and the way he delivers or talks about anything just seems like it just comes from such a depth of thought whenever he speaks, really. And I thought, when I heard Artie say that, I was like, that's so spot on. I couldn't have put it like that, but when he said it, I was like, that's exactly who he is and how he behaves 24/7.
So the question I have is, if these current three are working relatively well as a loose forward trio, and you're going like-for-like replacements, when Sam Cane leaves, who is the best like-for-like replacement to make that trio work in the long term?
Well, you'd have to think, based on numbers, Ethan Blackadder. It's like, to show Sam Cane's worth, and what we're trying to talk about is the Tamaiti Williams no try with the inside pass. That the speed and desperation to get on that loose ball that created that opportunity, it was a lot closer to a lot of orange jerseys. It was miles closer to a lot of orange jerseys. But his desperation and want to dive on that ball to create that opportunity, that's as big as Artie's try. That's as big as Wallace's carries, if not bigger. Do you know what I mean? Because it created an opportunity for us to score, and that's what we mean. And if you look at Ethan's numbers, even when he was at 6, sometimes he had higher numbers than Sam. Yeah, he's an absolute workhorse motor. Can Dalton play that role? Absolutely. But can he be a massive solution off the bench? Yeah. Dalton is a power athlete that can play 6, 7 or 8 and because of that potentially, well, mind you, Ethan can play 6, 7 or 8. But what Dalton could potentially do against tiring bodies, could actually work as a 1-2 punch.
Well, thank you very much for your question, Richard McTagg. We'll get you out one of these Player Sports balls. And I mentioned earlier, we've got a good offer for you guys out there. Go to playersports.co.nz, or you can go to the QR code on this page. Put in the ARP code, which is RugbyPod20, when you go to the checkout. Then you can get 20% off all Blacks kit, balls and boots. That's a hell of an offer from Player Sports. So if you're in New Zealand, go to their website if that's the kit that you want, and Player Sports will look after you. So keep on tuning into them, keep on tuning into us, and we'll look after you along the way. Look, there were other things that were happening within that game. We touched on the effect of TJ Perenara coming on. He's also leaving. Ratimer looks like the business.
Yeah.
So when Cam Roigard comes back, and he's going to be coming back, pretty soon.
Be a good battle.
What do you do? Is it that Ratimer is a good fit at 9, Brynner? And you say, well, Roigard's got that amazing impact off the bench, or do you look at it the other way around?
The way that Cortez is playing, it's very hard to be able to say, let's be able to put Cam in there straight away. Now, I think Cam is going to get an opportunity just with how good he is, and he will get an opportunity, I think, at the end of the year. But what it has done, it's not just like a foregone conclusion that that Cam was going to be the number 1 because of how Cortez is playing. So I think it's going to be a very good battle. I think it's going to be a very good battle for the next World Cup cycle. And this will just be the first step, the first part of these two being able to go hammer and tongs for whoever's going to get that starting point. But with how Cortez is playing, geez, for a kid that is at his age, his debut season, very, very impressive. Now, his support line's great. His defensive, his communication is great. But what I'm really enjoying, especially at a young kid's age, is the execution of his box kicks. His box kicks were right on the money in terms of being in there contestable, and even his long and outs were very good on the weekend as well. So in terms of your core skills, and I know Scott Hansen will be very, very good in around. He's very, very hard on your run pass kick. He's doing that very well. So I look forward to seeing Cam because he is something different. We've talked around that he has a possibility of that kind of DuPont kind of style with how he does play. But it's going to be a great battle. I'm really going to look forward to seeing their battle for the next couple of years.
Cortez has looked really good when he's come off the bench for the Chiefs too. He can provide impact. Maybe not in the same way.
Don't forget against England. Debut, called up onto the bench, and then there's an injury, and really impressed by the way he's actually distributed and delivered in both roles.
Yeah.
Now I know why he benches about 180, because he's got that nice little fend. And you see it just straight on the chest. Remember Carter used to do that? It was just like straight on the chest, and I think he did it to me once, and like you just grab an ear.
Yeah.
It's like that. It was just so nice. It was just full of power. I think it was Cotton Betty as well. Like, it's not a little man that he was pushing off.
Take us back. He benches 180.
Yeah, he like benches with the Type 5. Like he benches like massive amount of weight.
That's insane.
Yeah. I think it's 180.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is. It could be even 185.
Yeah, what's your PB?
Well, it's not that. I think the best I did was 170 for 2
Yeah.
when I was playing.
Yeah.
No, like, I'm happy with 140 these days. I'm wrapped with that.
That's still lifting to Mighty Williams above your head. That's still a decent amount.
It's a little bit different though. Like, it's vanity weights versus training for purpose.
British, shall I put you through the same process?
Oh, mate, I'm nowhere near there. I think the best I ever got was a 145. That was my best one. But that was the wee little, had the old thrust going though, so that kind of gets cancelled these days. So.
Geez, can you imagine Nick Gill, your Blacks S&C trainer?
I'm pretty sure they put a video up on social media, and that's where I saw he was literally benching with props. Yeah, I think Asafo Moore's probably the one that lifts the most though. I think he's around 200. You'd have to think Tossi's up there.
He's around 200.
I think so.
Yeah, there's a lot more Asafo Aumua.
Yeah, I know. But 20 kgs at that weight is quite a significant amount.
It's a significant difference.
But Asafa's chest is out there, so he just has to go to there. Whereas little pigeon chests like mine, it's
You've got to go the whole way.
That's what I'm going to tell myself.
So much more effort. Fair enough. And Bryn's got long arms.
Yeah.
Hey, Brenna.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Nowhere near those kind of numbers, lads. Let's just move on. There's absolutely no chance that I'm getting that up, ever. No chance.
Right. While we're talking selections, let's talk about number 10. We spoke about Harry Plumber. You know, we've seen Damien McKenzie throughout the year so far. At what point do we see Harry Plumber get a crack? Is it the Japan game? Like, when do we see more time for him to give him a crack?
I just want to make it clear that, like, well, I'll get to Harry, but I just don't think Damien's playing bad. Like, the reps that he's getting, man, like, he is playing such good footy. Now, execution is a different thing, right? The passes that I touched on, but he is making multiple attacking line breaks through, like, different way, through its counter attack, through it's just a heads up play, through it's a chip and chase, himself on the weekend out the back getting through. Like, he is, like, I can imagine his defense's coach watching Damien, you've got to be on your job. Like, it took Richie, like, quite a long time to even get those kind of gaps in seasons. Like, it took him 3 to 4 seasons for him to actually even get a chance to be able to do that. Now, I know they're on a little bit of a different game plan, but I think Damien is playing really well. Now, the execution thing and understanding maybe situationally, like, he's getting maybe a few things wrong here and there, but all the good that he's doing, I think, outweighs the bad. So I've been really impressed with Damien. So, like, I hope that they stick with him, and I understand that, you know, Harry might get an opportunity or someone else might get an opportunity just because obviously the majority of the games that Damien has played. But I just want to put it out there, like, I think Damien's been playing outstanding. You might feel different, but I've been bloody impressed with what he's done.
I agree. Like, we talk about the attack and everyone says it rests on the 10 shoulders. Well, he is creating a lot of opportunities for us to score points.
Yeah.
So, and I think tactical kicking's been solid. You know, defensively, we know he's got the heart of a lion. So I don't see it being changed this week, no.
So is he just a scapegoat? Is that what's happened here? People don't understand and they go, okay.
I just think we're not winning by plenty, or we're not winning, and it always falls on the 10. It doesn't, like, we've been in teams, Bryn, where you know, it's not actually the 9 and 10's fault, but it's like they get the raps when it's all going well, but they get the grief when it's not, and it's only because there's not necessarily full understanding, even for us that watches, you know, these games 3 or 4 times, of what they're trying to achieve. Like, we don't actually know their systems. We're working it out from afar. And for people that watch it once, you know, probably having a few lemonades and then they see the score, it's just an easy judgment to say the 10's no good. It happens every week. It's the same in NPC. 10's no good.
Yeah,
but
like,
it's actually not true.
And if you think as well, that's not just the Damien effect. Like, how many times did we hear Richie and Bodie? Like, it comes part and parcel with, like, I guess being an All Black 10 at international level and, like, just in general. So, like, yeah, I just want to come back to around there. I think Damien has been doing some really good things, and I think he's putting ourselves in position. Our attack is going so well is because he's doing a lot of good things in and around that. So, and the more time that he's going to spend, he's going to be able to nail the execution side, which not only him, a lot of the All Blacks have to nail within the attacking system, the breakdown, decision making in that last 20 minutes. A lot of those guys have to be will be holding themselves accountable around that. But to finally answer your question around Harry, I'm not too sure around when he might get an opportunity. Not too sure how long Bodie will be out. He probably might come back in if he's okay. But yeah, like Japan would be a perfect opportunity. I think is Stephen Perifetta
Not
flying
sure
around?
where he's at. I haven't seen him come back for Taranaki, so
Yeah.
unsure on that. But he's obviously done enough. You don't get put on the bench in a big game like that if you haven't impressed enough to warrant playing.
Let's talk a little bit about the Box versus Argentina, the other big game this weekend, which started in an incredible fashion. Just the Box all over it.
I thought it was all over when Creel went through.
Yeah.
I was almost like, oh, I'll catch the highlights.
Yeah.
But then when the Argies started coming back, and mate, they had 12 rucks in their 22 and scored, was it 4 tries? Yeah, 9 visits for 4 tries with only 12 rucks in the 22. But if you look at South Africa, where their game fell over, they had 14 visits like the All Blacks for 3 tries, but they had 36 rucks in total in the 22. So they just couldn't get past phase 2. They just kept making errors, which is so not like them. But in typical Argentina fashion, the rush D, little hands out, little bit of niggle off the ball and just forcing a little bit of errors and getting them, getting players that aren't regular starters off their game a little bit really caused some problems. Like they had 30% possession. Like when you look at it, you're like, how did they win this game? But there was a period of 20 minutes, the second 20 minutes, they came back and took the lead into the half. And and then they just held on. Like they scored 3 points in the second half. They had no ball. They had no right to win this game. South Africa, I thought Lebok, to his credit, he put a beautiful contestal up where Creel knocked that, I can't remember who took it, but knocked the player into touch. From there, he went up again, forced a knock on. From that scrum, that first breakdown, there's the penalty. I was like, man, in terms of Lebok, if he kicks it, he's a mastermind. But people forget that instantly because he has had a past of, in the pool play against Ireland, missed kicks that didn't allow them, although they went on to win the World Cup, it wasn't the end of the world. He has that history, and when you do it again, and it was quite wide, and it wasn't the most difficult. I had friends text me. I've got a group that have some South Africans in it and obviously some Kiwis in it, and the South Africans have been very vocal, it's fair to say. So a few of my Kiwi mates enjoyed it, saying they could kick it. I said they're dreaming because I don't think they could, but it just shows that, I just like all that sort of sense from the weekend is there's so much interest in rugby, and that care for your team and that, I suppose, engagement is a much nicer feel than just same old. So from a rugby point of view, and because I'm not passionate about the Springboks, it was good to see.
I know I'm going Malcolm Marx.
I am passionate about Malcolm Marx.
Yeah.
It was great to see him play 69 minutes too. But I do think I'm going to cop a lot of heat now in the YouTube comments and so forth.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting point that you make. He got them into position to win it. He couldn't deliver the win, but if he hadn't done the things beforehand, they wouldn't have been there anyway.
No.
So,
but there were so many errors before that kick, like 30% possession. The Argies did tackle at 90%. I think defensively, for the little ball Argentina had, they did the same stuff out on the edges as they did to Australia. South Africa tackled at 71%. I don't remember a time in history where I think South Africa would have tackled at that percentage. So again, it just shows you a lot of change, getting used to each other and systems. Even the best in the world can make those mistakes and lose test matches.
But this is the Rugby Championship we want, Bryn. It's the Rugby Championship where Argentina beat each of the other teams in a series, and we don't know what's going to happen each weekend. We've been asking for this for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. If you look at you actually wrote down, I said all my stats strip, and there's probably one thing as well that I saw. South Africa only had 2 mauls inside the 22. I actually had to read my stats and actually see if that was right. But we touched on, if you're going to give them multiple opportunities at maul time, you're going to they're going to score tries, whether that's off their line out maul or it's been able to then go into that 22 metre zone, which Strip just touched on. They were very poor, being able to not get past second or third phase. So they weren't able to get that right. And then I guess the attacking ability, if you look at Pablo Matera's try, hopefully you can clip this, Ross, you look at the whole back line off that try. So they've obviously got to a third, 2/3 of the field, being able to get to that part of the field, and then they all end up folding all the same way. The whole back line ends up going, and they're leaving about 3 or 4 South Africans that are on that short side because they're folded. And then from that, the animation and the questions that need to be asked, because you've got the whole back line in and around that with animation, downlines, and being able to use those players. It's really hard, even with the line speed pressure that the South Africans do, it's hard to be able to count that off and see where they're going. So they've done that this week. They did that against the Australians and scored multiple tries through that kind of face play shape. The execution was better against the Australians, but they were able to do that for 26 points after 17 points from the South Africans. So like they were able to score points when they came. And I think as well, that last 20 minutes, I could be wrong here, but the conditions must have played a big factor as well within that discipline, the mistakes and turnovers from the South Africans, because it looked like the first 40 minutes both teams had blown a motor. They scored a lot of points in that first half, and then that second half, through maybe fatigue and the hot conditions, there wasn't a lot of points scored that next 40 from both teams.
And a big party, I'd say, after.
Well, that
victory.
stadium itself looked like a party. What a stadium.
It was built for the Copa America or something, they said, and it's an amazing stadium.
It was beautiful.
Those football stadiums, they're glorious, aren't they?
Yeah, it was very nice. It was round, which is...
I love those, when it was overcoming that shot where you see it. The Super Sport are good with little drone shots like that, aren't they?
Yeah.
Was it Super Sport? No, wouldn't have been.
No, well, it was ESPN, ESPN. Actually, Brynna, I was in Christchurch the other day and I was driving past the new stadium down there. Wow, that looks like it's going to be cool, eh?
It looks in a great spot too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be so good for the city. I think, we're going back a little bit here. Obviously, we've been at Addington for a long time with the Crusaders, but what that's going to do for the city, it's perfect in terms of where it is. We've talked around in Auckland with the waterfront, obviously being closer to the city and whatnot, but I think for Christchurch, not only for rugby, but for all forms of entertainment when it comes to concerts, live shows, everything, it's going to be a spectacle. I can't wait to get back for the reunion and have a few lemonades in there at some time.
Are you running for council?
Not running for council, mate. Just happy, Just obviously the people in Christchurch have missed out for a long time, so we're looking forward to it when it finally does happen.
Can you imagine that smile on a billboard?
Oh, he'd make a good politician.
Yeah, it
he'd
would be
make
good.
a great politician. He can sell ice to Eskimos.
Vote Bryn Hall.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to happen. Now, look, the other thing I promised at the start of the show was mic'd up with Aaron Cruden. So we put a player mic on Aaron Cruden the same way that Sean Stevenson had one a couple of weeks ago, and he played for Waikato against Tasman. Tasman came through in the end with a late kick again, but Cruds came off the bench. And so we got to see what it was like for a veteran player, over 50 test matches, 35-year-old guy within that kind of squad, being able to help out his team.
Go boy, inside. And again. Great start. Keep going, Ux. Go, Ux. Go, boy. Take him. Oh! So hopefully it's the same when you get out there and if it's on to run. If not, we just play our system. Hello, guys. Thanks for coming along. Here. Carry, boy. Hop! Come! You're right! Here we go, Paddy! Ball in! Hold! Watch 8-9! Yeah, hold! Winger! Go, Aki! Yeah, give it! Great D, brother. Yes. Use it. Yeah, come. Hold it. You all right, bro? Yeah. Here we go, Dale. Call your break. Watch 8. Kick pressure! Oi! Come! Kick pressure! Go! Get out.
Ready for the win.
Short.
told you before it was even over. And Tasman.
Thank you very much, eh? Thanks, mate.
with the
Well done, bro.
victory.
Playing some great.
Yeah, you too, bro. Good to see you.
Cheers, bro. Good to see you. Well done, bro. It's hard to stop. Thanks, mate. Cheers. Thank you. Goran, mean, bro. Awesome, bro. Keep it going. Well done, bro. Massive. Mecca, well done, bro. Got the boys going well. Young man, great kick the other week too, bro. That was unreal. Thanks, bro. Massive game, bro. Well done, eh? Keep it going.
Good mates with Stu.
Are you? Yeah, bro. He's a good fella. Hey, well done, bro. Good one. Hello. Louis on.
I don't know if you're allowed over the EQP.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that's what it looks like. Aaron Cruden, unfortunately, they didn't get the win, but seeing him talk to the players as they're going through and shaking hands, and the words of advice and the little bits of encouragement, all those things are valuable.
And I think if people, because it'll be on social media, so people can go back and watch the clip, there's just a couple of things there as well that I love. One, he doesn't stop talking. Like we say it all the time, we've referenced Bodie defensively, he's in that backfield, it's just relentless talking, it's relentless communication in the way that allows others to just focus on, what's in front of them, and they have that trust and clarity. They know. The other one is, even when he was on the bench, he was like, back yourself. It just shows how sharp his rugby brain is, because he goes, back yourself, and I think, I'm not too sure who it was, but threw the pass inside and they didn't score, but that shows the level of IQ he has in there. And then two more things for me, sorry, Brynard, I hope I don't steal it all, but was when he called hot. Everyone knows hot's, for the halfback to fire it straight to them because he can see the space on the edge. But that draws the Tasman defenders, and it's actually Xavier Rowe's beautiful work, how he just pops out and the player came off his shoulder, and then from there they scored. And then lastly, probably the best thing for me is seeing a first five block cleaners. There's a time where a tackle happens and he blocks two Tasman cleaners to allow them to get the turnover. So I just think that was seriously good footage of someone that is still at the top of their game and showing through experience some of the little nuances you can use in and around the collision area and through communication.
What piqued your interest, Bryn?
I think him tackling Levi Moore was actually probably it. I think putting his body on the line and being able to see the big fella coming at him. So yeah, I really enjoyed the bench chat, because I think it's really, really important. We've already kind of touched on it, but I think what that does for those players, and obviously they didn't get the result, but if he's coming from the bench and being able to have those conversations with those young guys, it's setting them up and giving them confidence. You just touched on it around the confidence when the guys are on the field, him just being able to just give that kind of energy, but talking to those guys, and no doubt probably the things that we didn't see, he was getting the young guys to be able to say, hey, this is what it looks like for you, how you're feeling, just go out there and express yourself, those kind of positive reinforcements for those guys coming on the field. So yeah, I really enjoyed seeing it from the bench and how influential you can be when you're not even on the field.
As an older bloke within a team like that, obviously he's at the very end of his career. He wasn't able to get to the US because the team fell over, and he's back here playing NPC. It's the kind of person you need in the system, isn't it?
Yeah, you do, and I think the Crusaders have done it so well previously. I think Mike Delaney, someone like that, was brought down to the Crusaders when they were on that hot run when Super Rugby was their full Super Rugby, and someone of that experience in that position, it's the work they do through the week to upskill and grow individuals, but then clutch moments, they're still going to be able to deliver. And you can see he's a competitor. He's still competing. And I think that's when most people retire, is where that fire to compete every day and push your body to its absolute limits every day is gone. But you can certainly still see that fire still burning for Cruds. And
then I like bringing the sense of perspective that you get with it as well. It's half time, and he's saying hey to the kids on the way back in, before he comes out in the second half. Those kind of things I think you probably only get from an older player with that kind of comfort in their environment.
Yeah, I think it does, because I think you're understanding that there's probably not that long to go, right, career-wise, and so I think when you're younger, and geez, I fell into that trap when all you're concentrating and fixated on is the result and being able to, do your role and being able to, be engaged. But Cruds probably has that ability. I probably know he does actually, that he can be able to switch it on and switch it off when he needs to. So would have been his family or just the kids that he saw just going past and being able to say that it's not going to have like a negative effect on his game, and just taking it all in, and the appreciation of the fans being there and being able to, give that one kid a moment and being able to say, hey, how you going? And making that kid's day.
Very good to watch. I really enjoyed that. So thank you to Aaron Cruden for participating in that, as well as the Waikato Union and all of the people involved to make that kind of thing happen, to really give us a good insight into rugby. So That's all but our show. Let's have a look this weekend. What do we expect out of the results this weekend? Australia come to the All Black graveyard, Wellington. Can they get up?
No, I think the All Blacks will be better this week. And I think also the All Black graveyard, although we make it a joke, that'll become personal to them now. You know, like that'll be a big part of their preparation to make sure that that's not a hoodoo. You know the value of Eden Park and the hoodoo that it has for other teams coming to it. You certainly don't want to make this Sky Stadium hoodoo a bigger thing than it needs to be, and I think a big clinical victory is exactly what they'll deliver.
Bryn?
Yeah, I'm thinking that. Definitely thinking that'll be more clinical. But I think if you're looking on the Australian side, if there is one place that you probably do want to play, it is at Sky Stadium, which we can obviously see behind me. So, but I did say a week ago that I expected a more clinical performance and probably thought that we were going to get that after the start that we did have. We had multiple opportunities, so I guess the thing for me that I want to see is being able to have those same opportunities but being able to execute. It's been a little bit of a trend of us not being able to finish things with whatever that looks like, and I want to see that, and probably we are going to see that depending on weather conditions actually. Hopefully it is a dry night, but it might be a little bit dewy at this time of the year, so can we do that skill set under that pressure with a little bit more dew on the ball? That'd be interesting to see, and I think our bench as well. I think it's been able to own that last 20 minutes, and if we don't get a yellow card and we can come back here on Monday, I'll be happy, because I think we'll see a better result in that last 20 if we aren't in those kind of yellow card scenarios.
Right, and over in South Africa, Brynner, very much a box win for you?
Oh yeah, I see that being pretty tough for the Argentinians. I think we'll see the majority of that 23, a strong 23, but you never know with Rusty. He might leave a couple out there in terms of the guys that played in Argentina, but yeah, I see a pretty dominant performance, and I think they'll come through them in terms of their set piece. They didn't get a lot of opportunities to do line-out mauls inside the 22. Their attack's going to be all good, and defensively they'll be better around that 71% that Jip alluded to. But yeah, I see a big response from the South Africans this weekend back at home.
That's an interesting point. Let's say you take Mani Lebok and you are Rassie Erasmus. When you look at that, do you say, get back out there, bro? Get back out there? Don't let this get you down.
If he was their, I suppose, future starter, potentially, but it sort of feels like he's fourth or fifth in their pecking order.
Do I have to take you back to 2011?
Eh?
Do I have to take you back to 2011?
Yeah, I know, but they weren't actually prepared. They were just thrown into it, so it might be better just to throw them in once we're in 2027 World Cup. But no, I don't think he's high enough up the pecking order to get another shot. If if he was number one or number two, then yeah, I think you'd push him straight back out there.
But for you, it's a box win.
Yes.
Well, there we go. The Box take out the Rugby Championship this weekend by the sounds of it. Thank you once again for joining us on the Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Really appreciate you coming along, join the show. Send us emails, aotearoarugbypod@sky.co.nz. Get into the comments section. Love reading through those. Thank you to everyone who helps put the show together. Thank you to Jipper. Thank you to Bryn. Thank you all. We'll catch you again next week. Mā te wā.